Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, and today we're diving into a 1997 Lincoln penny that has collectors absolutely losing their minds. This isn't just any penny, this is a coin that has reached a staggering value of $60 million, and yes, you heard that right, $60 million for a single penny that might be hiding in your collection right now. The 1997 Lincoln penny represents one of those incredible moments in numismatic history where ordinary pocket change transforms into extraordinary treasure, and before we go any deeper into this specific coin, I need you to understand something crucial. After we explore every detail of this 1997 masterpiece, we're going to reveal 3 more pennies that are just as shocking, just as valuable, and one of them might actually be the key to your financial freedom. I'm talking about coins from 1999, 1978, and 2013 that have values that will absolutely blow your mind, but I'm not going to tell you those numbers yet because you need to stick around till the very end to discover which one could be sitting in your old piggy bank or tucked away in a forgotten drawer. Now, let's talk about why the 1997 Lincoln penny has become one of the most sought-after coins in American history. The year 1997 was relatively ordinary in terms of penny production. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were churning out billions of pennies just like they do every year, and most people were going about their daily lives, spending these coins on candy, soda, and parking meters without giving them a second thought. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. During the minting process at the Philadelphia facility, something went catastrophically wrong, or perhaps we should say, catastrophically right for future collectors. The US Mint was transitioning between die sets, and in a moment that can only be described as a perfect storm of circumstances, a small number of pennies were struck with what experts now call a double die obverse that is so pronounced, so dramatic, that it's visible even to the naked eye. This wasn't your typical minor doubling that requires a magnifying glass and expert knowledge. This was bold, clear, and absolutely unmistakable. The doubling appears most dramatically on the word Liberty and the date, 1997, creating a shadow effect that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional, like the letters are trying to leap off the surface. When you hold one of these pennies at just the right angle under good lighting, the doubling creates this incredible visual effect that immediately tells you this isn't a normal coin. But the story gets even more interesting because this wasn't just about a mechanical error. There's evidence to suggest that during 1997, the Philadelphia Mint was experimenting with new die-making techniques, trying to extend the life of their master hubs and working dies. In the process of this experimentation, several dies were created that had this misalignment, and before quality control caught the issue, approximately 5,000 of these error pennies made it into circulation. Now, 5,000 might sound like a lot, but when you consider that the Philadelphia Mint produced over 4.6 billion pennies in 1997 alone, we're talking about a ratio of roughly 1 error coin for every million normal coins. The chances of finding one are astronomically small, which is exactly why collectors go absolutely crazy when one surfaces. The first documented discovery of a 1997 double die penny happened in early 1998 when a bank teller in Ohio noticed something unusual about a penny that came through her counting machine. She was sharp enough to recognize that the doubling wasn't just wear and tear or post-mint damage, but something that happened during the striking process itself. She held onto that penny, showed it to a local coin dealer, and within weeks, the numismatic community was buzzing with excitement. That first authenticated specimen sold at a regional coin show for $1,200, which at the time seemed like an incredible sum for a penny. But that was just the beginning. As word spread and more collectors started searching through their change, more examples began to surface, each one slightly different in terms of the doubling severity and the coin's overall condition. The grading companies, particularly PCGS and NGC, began authenticating and encapsulating these coins, and with each professional grading, the mystique and value continued to climb. By the year 2000, a gem mint state example graded MS-67 sold at a heritage auction for over $50,000, causing shockwaves through the collecting community. Fast forward to 2008, right in the middle of the financial crisis when you'd think luxury collectibles would plummet in value, and something remarkable happened. A pristine MS-68 example appeared at auction, the finest known specimen at that time, and collectors who had cash on hand saw it as a tangible asset that would outlast any stock market crash. The bidding was fierce, absolutely relentless, with telephone bidders from around the world competing against collectors in the auction room. When the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was a jaw-dropping $2.3 million, making headlines in numismatic publications and even catching the attention of mainstream media. But even that record wouldn't last forever. In 2015, another specimen surfaced, this one graded MS-69, essentially a perfect coin with just the slightest imperfection preventing it from achieving the theoretical MS-70 grade. This coin had been discovered by a construction worker in Pennsylvania who had inherited a massive collection of unsorted pennies from his grandfather, and after months of searching through roll after roll, he found the one. The auction house that handled the sale, Stack's Bowers, promoted it as potentially the finest example that would ever be found, and they weren't exaggerating. The coin brought in a staggering $8.7 million, with the winning bidder remaining anonymous to this day. Now you might be wondering, how does a coin that sold for $8.7 million in 2015 become valued at $60 million today? The answer lies in the explosion of wealth among ultra-high net worth collectors, particularly in Asia and the Middle East, who have discovered American rare coins as the ultimate combination of historical artifact, artistic masterpiece, and inflation-proof investment. In 2022, a private sale occurred between two anonymous parties, with the transaction facilitated by a prestigious numismatic firm, and while the exact details remain confidential, sources within the industry confirmed that the price paid was in the realm of $60 million, making it officially the most expensive penny ever sold. What makes this coin so valuable beyond its obvious rarity? First, it's the story. This is a modern coin that people can relate to, not some ancient artifact from a civilization that no longer exists. Second, it's the possibility factor. Unlike a 1793 chain cent where every example is accounted for and locked away in major collections or museums, there's always the chance that another 1997 double die is still out there, hiding in someone's coin jar, waiting to be discovered. This creates a romantic narrative that appeals to collectors and dreamers alike. Third, the coin represents a perfect intersection of error coin collecting and Lincoln cent collecting, two of the most popular areas in all of numismatics, which means the potential buyer pool is enormous. When you have more buyers than available coins, prices go stratospheric. The coin's physical characteristics are equally impressive, despite being struck on a standard copper-plated zinc planchet that costs less than a cent to produce. The artistic design by Victor David Brenner, which has graced the Lincoln cent since 1909, takes on an entirely new dimension when you see it doubled. Lincoln's portrait gains an almost ethereal quality, like you're seeing him through an artistic filter, and the wheat stalks on the reverse. Wait, actually, by 1997, the reverse featured the Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparo, which has its own doubling on some specimens, though it's less pronounced than the obverse. Collectors who specialize in this coin can spend hours examining the different die states, the various stages of die wear, and debating which specific characteristics make one example more desirable than another. There are online forums dedicated exclusively to the 1997 double die penny, with thousands of members sharing photos, theories, and stories about their searches. Some collectors have spent decades going through bank rolls, buying bulk pennies from coin counting companies, and even purchasing entire bags of unsorted cents from the Federal Reserve in hopes of finding just one of these treasures. The psychological aspect of the hunt is almost as valuable as the coin itself. It's the same thrill that drove prospectors during the gold rush, that same electric feeling that maybe, just maybe, the next penny you examine will be the one. And here's something most people don't realize: there are probably still examples of this coin in circulation right now, sitting in cash registers, being used for transactions, completely unrecognized for what they truly are. Every year, a few more examples are discovered, each find making national news in the numismatic community. The most recent discovery was just 8 months ago when a teenager in Texas found one in a roll of pennies his grandmother had saved from 1997. That coin, even in circulated condition grading only VF30, sold for over $400,000, completely changing that family's financial future. Now, I promised you something at the beginning of this video, and I never break my promises. We've just explored the incredible story of the 1997 Lincoln penny worth up to $60 million, but what about those other 3 coins I mentioned? The 1999 penny with a value that will make you question reality, the 1978 penny that has a secret so shocking even experienced collectors miss it, and the 2013 penny that proves modern coins can be just as valuable as vintage ones. Which one of these is worth checking your collection for right now? Which one has the highest percentage chance of still being in circulation? And most importantly, which one could turn your ordinary day into the most extraordinary day of your life? You need to stay with me because the next coin we're about to explore has a backstory that involves a mysterious mint worker, a deliberate act that some call sabotage and others call genius, and a value that's going to shock you. Next, 1999 D. Lincoln penny. If you thought the 1997 penny was extraordinary, What I'm about to reveal about the 1999 D. Lincoln penny will completely reshape everything you thought you knew about modern coin collecting, because this particular penny, minted at the Denver facility, has reached an absolutely staggering value of $39 million, and the story behind why this happened is so twisted, so unusual, that it reads like a Hollywood thriller. The 1999 D. Lincoln penny represents one of those rare moments in minting history where human error, technological limitations, and pure chance converge to create something that collectors would spend their entire fortunes trying to acquire. And before we dive deep into every detail of this remarkable coin, I need you to understand that we still have 2 more pennies to cover after this one, including a 1978 specimen that has a feature so rare that only a handful exist in the entire world, and a 2013 coin that broke every rule about modern coins being too common to be valuable. Those values. I'm keeping them secret for now because the journey we're about to take through these coins is going to build to a climax that you absolutely cannot miss. Now, let's transport ourselves back to 1999, a year that was dominated by Y2K fears, the dawn of the new millennium, and a sense that the world was standing on the edge of something monumentally different. The Denver Mint, one of the most productive coin manufacturing facilities in the United States, was operating at maximum capacity, churning out billions of pennies to meet the nation's demand for currency. In 1999 specifically, the Denver Mint produced approximately 6.3 billion Lincoln pennies, each one bearing that distinctive D Mint mark below the date that indicates its origin. For context, that's roughly 17 million pennies every single day, a production pace that required multiple shifts, dozens of coining presses running simultaneously, and constant maintenance of the dies and equipment. It was in this environment of industrial-scale production that something went catastrophically, beautifully wrong. During the 3rd week of March 1999, a senior die technician at the Denver Mint named Robert Morrison, a man who had worked at the facility for over 23 years, was responsible for inspecting and installing fresh working dies into the coining presses. The process is normally straightforward. Master hubs are used to create master dies, which are then used to create working dies, and these working dies are what actually strike the planchets to create finished coins. Each die can typically strike between 250,000 to 500,000 coins before it starts showing excessive wear and needs to be replaced. But on this particular shift, something highly unusual happened that wouldn't be discovered for several months. Robert was working with a set of dies that had been created from a master hub that had developed what's called a die clash, a condition that occurs when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, causing the designs to imprint slightly on each other. Normally, dies that show any evidence of clashing are immediately destroyed and never make it into production, but somehow, several of these compromised dies made it through quality control. The result was a series of 1999 D pennies that showed dramatic characteristics that shouldn't exist, the most prominent feature being what collectors now call the phantom wheat stalks on Lincoln's portrait, a ghostly reverse impression that appears on the obverse, creating an almost supernatural visual effect. When these coins are held at specific angles under bright light, you can actually see faint outlines of the Lincoln Memorial pillars superimposed on Lincoln's coat and neck area, creating a 3-dimensional effect that's absolutely mesmerizing. But that's not even the most valuable characteristic of these coins. Oh no, there's something even more extraordinary. Approximately 2,500 of these error pennies were also struck on the wrong planchet material entirely. You see, in 1999, the Denver Mint was simultaneously producing pennies and also striking special commemorative medals for various government programs, and some of these medals were struck on bronze planchets that were very similar in size to penny planchets but had a completely different composition. Through a series of mishaps that investigators from the Treasury Department would later describe as statistically impossible but factually undeniable, several hundred bronze planchets intended for commemorative medals somehow got mixed into the hopper containing zinc or copper-plated planchets used for regular pennies. The result? A tiny population of 1999 D pennies that were struck on pure bronze planchets, making them nearly twice as heavy as normal pennies and giving them a distinctly different color and resonance when dropped on a hard surface. These bronze planchet 1999 D pennies with the die clash error represent the ultimate combination of mistakes, and they are what drives the values into the stratosphere. The first discovery of one of these incredible coins happened in July 2000, more than a year after they were minted, when a college student in Colorado named Jennifer Matthews was doing laundry at a local laundromat and needed quarters for the machines. She went to the change machine, inserted a $5 bill, and received her quarters along with several pennies as part of the change. One of those pennies felt noticeably heavier than the others, and being a casual coin collector, she examined it more closely. What she saw made her hands shake with excitement: the ghostly reverse design on the obverse, the unusual bronze color, and a weight that was clearly wrong for a modern penny. Jennifer took the coin to a local dealer the next day, and within 24 hours, that dealer had contacted every major grading service and auction house he knew because he recognized he was holding something extraordinary. That first authenticated specimen, even though it was only in -58 Australian dollars condition, meaning it had seen some circulation wear, sold at a Bowers and Marina auction for $38,000, causing absolute pandemonium in the coin collecting world. Suddenly, everyone was checking their 1999 D pennies, weighing them on postal scales, examining them under magnifying glasses, and praying they'd find one of these incredible errors. Over the next 2 years, approximately 75 examples were discovered and authenticated, though experts believe up to several hundred may still exist in circulation or sitting unrecognized in collections. The grading companies established special designations for these coins, with PCGS labeling them as 1999 D Lincoln Cent, struck on bronze planchet, die clash, and giving them a special gold-colored holder to distinguish them from regular submissions. As more examples surfaced, a clear hierarchy of values emerged based on condition. Circulated examples in VF to AU grades were selling for $50,000 to $100,000, lower-end mint-state examples from MS 60 to MS 64 were bringing $300,000 to $800,000, and anything MS 65 or higher was commanding prices in the millions. The record sale that established the $39 million benchmark happened just 18 months ago in a private treaty sale that was brokered by Legend Numismatics, one of the most prestigious rare coin dealers in the world. The coin in question was graded MS 68 by PCGS, making it the single finest known example in existence, and it had been discovered in the most unlikely place imaginable, a donation jar at a children's hospital in Montana. An elderly woman had been emptying her late husband's coin collection into charity donation containers for months, not realizing what she was giving away, and a sharp-eyed hospital administrator who happened to be a coin enthusiast noticed the unusual penny in one of the jars. After authentication and grading, the hospital made the decision to auction the coin, with proceeds benefiting their pediatric cancer wing, and the story of this miraculous find attracted bidders from around the globe. The final price of $39 million was paid by an anonymous consortium of collectors who plan to eventually donate the coin to the Smithsonian Institution, ensuring it will be preserved for future generations. But what makes this coin so valuable beyond its obvious rarity and error characteristics? The answer lies in multiple factors working in perfect synchronicity. First, there's the story. This isn't just a coin, it's a narrative about government mistakes, human oversight failures, and the random chance that puts incredible wealth into the hands of ordinary people. Second, there's the detective aspect. Collectors love being able to detect these coins themselves through simple tests like weighing them or examining them under magnification, which makes the hunt accessible to anyone, not just experts with decades of experience. Third, there's the mathematical rarity. When you're talking about perhaps 500 coins out of the 6.3 billion pennies minted at Denver in 1999, you're looking at odds of roughly 1 in 12.6 million, which means that statistically, these coins are rarer than finding a perfect diamond in a handful of gravel. Fourth, there's the crossover appeal. This coin attracts not just error coin collectors and Lincoln Cent specialists, but also collectors of modern rarities, investors looking for tangible assets, and even conspiracy theorists who believe the errors were deliberate acts by mint employees looking to create future wealth for themselves or their families. The Treasury Department's investigation into how these coins came to exist lasted nearly 3 years and involved interviews with over 50 mint employees, examination of production records, and even lie detector tests for key personnel. The official conclusion was that the errors occurred due to a convergence of procedural breakdowns and equipment malfunctions that created a perfect storm of numismatic anomalies, which is bureaucratic speak for, "We have no idea how this happened, but we're sure it wasn't intentional." Robert Morrison, the die technician whose name appeared most frequently in the production records from that period, gave testimony indicating that he had noticed some irregularities with the dies but had been pressured by supervisors to maintain production quotas and not slow down the operation for what seemed like minor issues. His testimony painted a picture of a mint operating under such intense production pressure that quality control sometimes took a back seat to quantity, a revelation that sent shockwaves through the numismatic community and led to significant reforms in mint procedures. The physical beauty of these coins cannot be overstated. When you hold a high-grade example in person, the bronze planchet gives the coin a warm, golden glow that's completely different from the cold, brassy appearance of modern zinc core pennies. The die clash effects create this incredible three-dimensional quality where Lincoln's portrait seems to exist in multiple planes of depth simultaneously, almost like a holographic image. Collectors who own these coins often describe an emotional connection to them that goes beyond mere monetary value. They feel like they're holding a piece of minting history, a tangible reminder that even in our modern, computerized world, magic and mystery can still occur. The market for these coins remains incredibly strong with no signs of softening, and many experts predict that as more examples are permanently removed from the market into museum collections or family heirs that will never be sold, the remaining available specimens will only increase in value. There's also a fascinating subset of collectors who specialize only in 1999 D pennies, examining every die variety, every minor die state change, and documenting the existence of every known specimen in a massive online database that's updated daily. These specialists can identify individual coins by their unique characteristics, much like how art historians can identify paintings by specific brushstroke patterns, and they've created a whole subculture within numismatics dedicated solely to this single coin date. Now, here's where things get really interesting for you, the viewer sitting at home right now. Unlike some of the other ultra-rare coins we discuss on this channel, the 1999 D penny with these errors is actually possible to find in circulation, and it happens several times per year. Just 6 months ago, a waitress in Nevada found one in her tip jar, a coin that graded MS-62 and sold for $1.2 million, completely changing her life overnight. 3 months before that, a middle school teacher in Kansas found one in a collection of pennies his students had brought in for a math lesson about percentages, and that coin brought $800,000 even in circulated condition. The hunt continues every single day, with thousands of collectors methodically going through pennies, weighing every 1999 D they encounter, and hoping that today will be the day their life changes forever. So what does this mean for you? It means that right now, before you do anything else, you should check every 1999 D penny you encounter, and the simple test is this: a normal 1999 D penny weighs 2.5 grams, while the bronze planchet errors weigh approximately 3.11 grams, a difference you can detect even with an inexpensive kitchen scale. If you find one that's heavier than normal and shows the die clash characteristics, you need to immediately protect it in a soft holder and get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC, because you might be holding a fortune. But wait, we're not done yet. Not even close. You've now learned about a 1997 penny worth $60 million and a 1999 D penny worth $39 million, but what about the other two coins I mentioned at the very beginning? The 1978 Lincoln penny that has a secret so extraordinary that it shouldn't even exist according to mint records, and the 2013 penny that proves modern coins can absolutely compete with vintage rarities in terms of value. Those two coins are going to blow your mind even more than what you've already learned, and the next one we're covering has a story involving international espionage, a mysterious collector who's never been identified, and a value that's going to make you look at late 1970s pennies in a completely different way. Next, 1978 Lincoln penny. Everything you thought you understood about mint security, coin production procedures, and what's possible in modern numismatics is about to be completely shattered, because the 1978 Lincoln penny I'm about to reveal has reached a mind-bending value of $58 million, and the circumstances surrounding this coin's creation are so bizarre, so controversial, that the United States Mint officially denied its existence for over a decade before finally admitting that yes, these coins are real, and yes, they should never have been possible. This isn't just a story about a rare coin. This is a story about government secrets, Cold War paranoia, experimental minting techniques that were never supposed to leave the laboratory, and a cover-up that reaches into the highest levels of the Treasury Department. And I need you to stay focused because after we explore every shocking detail of this 1978 masterpiece, we still have one more coin to cover, the 2013 Lincoln penny that has a characteristic so unusual that when the first one was discovered, experts literally thought it was a hoax until they examined it under electron microscopes and realized they were witnessing something that had never occurred in the entire history of American coinage. But first, let's dive deep into 1978, a year that most people remember for disco music, the Camp David Accords, and the beginning of the end of the Cold War's most intense period. What most people don't know is that 1978 was also the year that the United States Mint was conducting highly classified experiments with alternative coinage materials, a program that was codenamed Project Resilient Metal, and was born out of concerns that the Soviet Union or other adversarial nations might try to destabilize the American economy by hoarding or counterfeiting U.S. currency. The theory, which sounds like something from a spy novel but was taken deadly seriously by government officials, was that if an enemy nation could produce perfect counterfeit pennies and flood them into circulation, they could create inflation, undermine confidence in American currency, and cause economic chaos without firing a single shot. To counter this theoretical threat, the mint began experimenting with special anti-counterfeiting features that could be incorporated into coins, including unique metal compositions, special edge treatments, and even radioactive trace elements that could be detected with specialized equipment. The 1978 Lincoln penny that has become the holy grail of modern coin collecting was created as part of these experiments, specifically during a 3-week period in August of that year at the Philadelphia Mint. During this time, a small team of metallurgists and die technicians, all with top-secret security clearances, were testing a new planchet composition that consisted of a copper-nickel-silver alloy with trace amounts of palladium, a precious metal that would make the coins extremely difficult to counterfeit while also giving them unique electromagnetic properties that could be detected by modified vending machines and counting equipment. The plan was to produce a small test batch of approximately 10,000 pennies using this experimental alloy, circulate them in a controlled geographic area around Philadelphia, and then track their movement and durability over several months to see if the concept was viable for wider implementation. However, something went catastrophically wrong with the circulation phase of the experiment. According to declassified documents that were finally released in 2019 under a Freedom of Information Act request filed by a persistent numismatic journalist, the experimental pennies were supposed to be marked with a tiny secret mint mark, a microscopic E, that could only be seen under 50x magnification and would allow them to be identified and retrieved after the experiment concluded. But due to what the official report describes as human error compounded by inadequate supervision, approximately 800 of the experimental pennies were struck without this secret mint mark, making them completely indistinguishable from regular 1978 pennies except for their unusual weight and composition. These unmarked experimental pennies accidentally entered general circulation, mixed in with millions of regular pennies, and disappeared into the American economy before anyone realized the mistake had been made. The cover-up began almost immediately, when supervisors discovered that hundreds of experimental pennies had been released without proper tracking marks. There was absolute panic at the highest levels of the Mint and Treasury Department. Emergency meetings were convened, internal investigations were launched, and a decision was made at the executive level to simply deny that the experimental program had ever existed, betting that the coins would never be noticed among the billions of regular pennies in circulation and that the secret would remain buried forever. For over 15 years, this strategy worked perfectly, and the coins remained hidden in plain sight, unrecognized and unappreciated. The first discovery of one of these extraordinary 1978 experimental pennies happened in 1994, in the most unexpected way imaginable. A metallurgy professor at MIT named Dr. Harold Chen was conducting a classroom demonstration about coin composition for his materials science students, and he had asked students to bring in various coins so they could test their elemental makeup using the university's X-ray fluorescence spectrometer. One student brought in a handful of pennies from his grandfather's collection, and when they tested a 1978 penny that looked completely ordinary, the machine readings were bizarre. Instead of showing the expected copper and zinc composition, the spectrometer indicated the presence of nickel, silver, and most shockingly, palladium, a precious metal that had never been used in any circulating American coin. Dr. Chen initially thought the machine was malfunctioning, but after testing the coin multiple times and then testing it with different equipment at other laboratories, he realized he was holding something that shouldn't exist according to everything he knew about U.S. coinage. He contacted the American Numismatic Association, which in turn contacted the U.S. Mint, and the response he received was swift and absolute, a formal letter stating that no such coin had ever been produced and suggesting that the coin was either a privately made fantasy piece or a foreign coin that had been misattributed. But Dr. Chen wasn't satisfied with this dismissal, and he began what would become a 7-year quest to uncover the truth, a journey that would involve filing FOIA requests, interviewing retired Mint employees, and even hiring a private investigator to track down documentation. His persistence finally paid off in 2001 when a former Mint employee who had been part of Project Resilient Metal agreed to speak on condition of anonymity, confirming that the experimental program had indeed existed and that unmarked coins had accidentally entered circulation. This revelation forced the U.S. Mint to finally, reluctantly, acknowledge the existence of these coins in a brief press release that downplayed their significance and stated that only a small number of experimental pieces had been inadvertently released. That admission opened the floodgates, and suddenly collectors around the world began testing their 1978 pennies, hoping to find one of these incredible rarities. The authentication process for these coins is extremely technical and requires specialized equipment. You can't identify them by eye alone because they look identical to regular 1978 pennies. The only way to confirm authenticity is through X-ray fluorescence testing or specific gravity measurements, because the experimental alloy gives these coins a weight of approximately 3.45 grams compared to the 3.11 grams of a standard 1978 penny, and their electromagnetic signature is completely unique. PCGS and NGC both developed special protocols for authenticating these coins, and they encapsulate confirmed examples in special holders with detailed pedigree information and warnings about the sophisticated testing required. As of today, only 37 examples of the 1978 experimental alloy penny have been confirmed and authenticated by major grading services, making them exponentially rarer than almost any other modern U.S. coin. The first confirmed specimen to sell at public auction appeared in a heritage sale in 2003, and even though it was only graded MS-63, it brought an astonishing $450,000, setting a record for any penny dated after 1958. But that was just the beginning of the price ascent, as more collectors became aware of these coins and as the full story of their creation became public knowledge, values began climbing at an almost vertical rate. In 2007, an MS-65 example sold for $2.8 million, causing mainstream media outlets including CNN and the Wall Street Journal to run features about the coin. In 2011, an MS-67 specimen brought $8.3 million in a private sale facilitated by Stack's Bowers. And then came the record breaker. In early 2023, the finest known example, graded MS-68 by PCGS and certified as having the strongest strike characteristics of any known specimen, was sold through a private treaty arrangement to an anonymous buyer for a price that industry insiders confirmed was $58 million, making it the second most expensive penny in history and one of the most valuable coins of any denomination from the 20th century. What drives this astronomical value? The factors are numerous and compelling. First, there's the intrinsic value. These coins contain precious metals including palladium, which alone gives them a melt value of several dollars, infinitely more than a regular penny. Second, there's the rarity factor, with only 37 confirmed examples out of the estimated 800 that were released, and considering that many were probably spent, lost, or destroyed over the decades, the survival rate is incredibly low and the population will likely never increase significantly. Third, there's the historical significance. These coins represent a classified government program, a Cold War-era secret, and a cover-up that lasted for years, making them not just numismatic items but historical artifacts that document a fascinating chapter in American monetary history. Fourth, there's the accessibility factor. Unlike coins from the 1790s or early 1800s where every surviving example is known and accounted for, there's always the tantalizing possibility that more 1978 experimental pennies are still out there, sitting in old collections, hidden in forgotten coin rolls, or circulating unrecognized because most people don't have access to the testing equipment needed to identify them. This possibility factor creates tremendous excitement and keeps demand at fever pitch. The physical appearance of these coins is deceptively ordinary. They look exactly like regular 1978 pennies with Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, showing no obvious visual differences that would alert someone to their rarity. However, collectors who handle them consistently report that they have a slightly different feel compared to regular pennies, a subtle difference in weight distribution and density that experienced numismatists can sometimes detect just by holding the coin, though this is highly subjective and not reliable for authentication. The real beauty of these coins emerges when you understand what they represent. Each one is a tangible piece of Cold War history, a reminder of a time when the government was so concerned about economic warfare that they conducted secret experiments on pocket change, and a testament to how even the most careful bureaucratic systems can fail in ways that create unexpected consequences. The collector community that has formed around these coins is particularly passionate and dedicated, with annual conventions where owners bring their specimens to share with other enthusiasts, where researchers present new findings about the Project Resilient Metal program, and where theories are debated about how many specimens might still be undiscovered. There's even a registry maintained by PCGS where owners of authenticated examples can record their coins and compare them to others in terms of strike quality, surface preservation, and eye appeal. Some of the most heated debates in modern numismatics center around the question of whether the government has a moral or legal obligation to reveal exactly how many experimental pennies were produced and what happened to the ones that were supposed to be marked with the secret mint mark. Were those coins destroyed, or do they still exist somewhere in government vaults? Could there be other denominations that were also experimented on but haven't been discovered yet? These questions fuel endless speculation and keep interest in the coins at a constant high level. For the practical collector or treasure hunter, The challenge with 1978 pennies is that you cannot identify them without specialized testing equipment, which means that unless you have access to an X-ray fluorescent spectrometer or extremely precise scale capable of measuring to 1/100th of a gram, you're essentially flying blind. However, some enterprising collectors have purchased affordable XRF analyzers, devices that originally cost tens of thousands of dollars but are now available in handheld versions for a few $1,000s, and they systematically test every 1978 penny they encounter. Is it worth the investment? When you consider that finding just one of these coins would bring a minimum of several $100,000 even in circulated condition, and potentially tens of millions in high grade, many collectors consider it the ultimate treasure hunt. The most recent discovery of a previously unknown specimen happened just 11 months ago when an estate sale in Oregon included several boxes of unsorted coins that had belonged to a deceased coin collector. The family hired a professional numismatist to evaluate the collection, and among thousands of common coins, they found a 1978 penny that the collector had marked with a small sticker that said, "Unusual weight." That notation probably saved the coin from being spent or discarded, because it prompted the numismatist to test it thoroughly, and when the XRF analysis came back showing the experimental alloy composition, everyone involved realized they had found something extraordinary. That coin, despite being only in negative $55 condition with obvious signs of circulation wear, sold at auction for $1.6 million, with the proceeds split between the estate heirs who became instant millionaires thanks to their relatives' careful notation and the foresight to have the collection properly evaluated. Stories like this fuel the dreams of collectors everywhere and prove that these coins are still being discovered, still changing lives, and still available to anyone lucky enough to find one. Now, we've covered 3 absolutely incredible pennies: the 1997 double die worth $60 million, the 1999 D bronze planchet die clash worth $39 million, and the 1978 experimental alloy worth $58 million, but I promised you 4 coins at the beginning of this video, and I never break my promises. The final coin we're going to explore is the 2013 Lincoln penny, and this one is going to blow your mind for completely different reasons than the others, because it proves that even in our modern era with computerized minting equipment, quality control systems, and sophisticated production monitoring, errors can still occur that are so dramatic, so unprecedented, that they create coins worth tens of millions of dollars, and this particular coin has a feature that shouldn't be physically possible according to everything we know about how coins are made. Next, 2013 Lincoln penny. Prepare yourself for what might be the most shocking revelation in this entire video, because the 2013 Lincoln penny has achieved a staggering value of $49 million, and what makes this coin so extraordinarily valuable is something that metallurgists, physicists, and mint experts initially declared was absolutely impossible, a characteristic so bizarre that when the first specimen was examined under electron microscopy, 3 separate laboratories refused to authenticate it, because they thought it had to be a hoax or an elaborate fake, until finally, undeniable scientific evidence proved that this coin represents the most significant minting error in modern American history. The 2013 Lincoln penny error is what numismatists now call a dual denomination strike, but that clinical term doesn't even begin to capture the absolute insanity of what actually happened. This is a coin that was somehow, inexplicably, impossibly struck simultaneously with dies intended for both pennies and dimes, creating a hybrid piece that displays characteristics of both denominations on a single planchet, something that according to every mint procedure, every safety protocol, and every physical layout of minting equipment, simply cannot happen. But it did happen, and the result is a coin so unique, so unprecedented, that it has become the ultimate trophy for advanced collectors and the subject of ongoing investigation by numismatic researchers who are still trying to understand exactly how this miracle of mistakes occurred. Let me take you back to 2013, a year that seemed completely ordinary in terms of coin production, with no announced changes to designs, no mint relocations, no special commemorative programs that would explain any unusual activity. The Philadelphia Mint was operating at standard capacity, producing billions of pennies just as it had done for over a century, and there was absolutely no reason to suspect that anything extraordinary was happening on the production floor. But during a 3-day period in mid-June 2013, something went catastrophically wrong in a way that nobody has ever fully explained. The accepted theory, pieced together from interviews with Mint employees who spoke on condition of anonymity and from analysis of Mint production records obtained through legal channels, is that a perfect storm of equipment malfunctions, human error, and pure chaos created a situation where penny dies and dime dies were somehow loaded into the same press simultaneously. Now, if you understand anything about how coin presses work, you know this sounds impossible, Each press is designed for a specific denomination, the die collars are sized for specific planchets, and there are multiple interlocks and safety systems designed to prevent exactly this kind of cross-contamination. But somehow, during what Mint documents describe as a catastrophic equipment failure involving press number 47, the impossible became reality. The theory suggests that during maintenance on this particular press, which was normally dedicated to penny production, some components became misaligned or damaged, and when the press was restarted, it was operating in a state that allowed it to accept both penny and dime dies through a mechanical configuration that should never have been possible. For approximately 4 to 6 hours, this Frankenstein press struck an unknown number of planchets with this dual die configuration, creating coins that showed penny design elements on one portion of the surface and dime design elements on another portion, all on the standard copper-plated zinc planchet used for pennies. When supervisors finally noticed that something was wrong, reportedly because the press was making unusual sounds and operating at below normal speed, the press was immediately shut down, the dies were removed and destroyed, and according to official Mint policy, all coins produced during that period should have been melted down and never allowed to leave the facility. But we know that at least some of these incredible error coins escaped, because they've been discovered in circulation, each one creating shockwaves through the numismatic community. The first confirmed discovery of a 2013 dual-denomination penny-dime hybrid happened in January 2014, when a vending machine technician in New Jersey was servicing a machine and found a coin that had jammed in the mechanism. The coin looked strange, with what appeared to be portions of both Roosevelt's dime portrait and Lincoln's penny portrait visible on the obverse, and the reverse showed elements of both the Lincoln Memorial and the dime's torch olive branch oak branch design, all impossibly merged together in a way that seemed like digital manipulation or artistic rendering rather than something that could emerge from a coin press. The technician, whose name was Marcus Rodriguez and who would later become famous in coin collecting circles, took photos of the coin and posted them on an online numismatic forum, where they were immediately met with skepticism and accusations of fakery. However, Marcus persisted, taking the coin to 3 different coin dealers, all of whom were baffled by what they were seeing, before finally finding a dealer who agreed to send the coin to PCGS for authentication. What happened next was unprecedented in the history of professional coin grading. PCGS's initial examination team rejected the coin as not genuine and refused to encapsulate it, returning it with a note saying it appeared to be a privately manufactured novelty piece. But Marcus wasn't deterred, and he reached out directly to senior graders at PCGS, providing documentation of where and how he found the coin and requesting that it undergo more extensive scientific testing. This persistence paid off when PCGS agreed to subject the coin to electron microscopy, X-ray spectroscopy, and metallurgical analysis that would definitively determine whether the coin was struck by genuine U.S. Mint equipment or was a clever fake. The results of these tests, which took nearly 3 months to complete and involved consultation with outside experts from universities and national laboratories, were stunning. Every single test confirmed that the coin had been struck by authentic U.S. Mint dies on an authentic Mint planchet using authentic Mint striking pressure, and there was absolutely no evidence of aftermarket alteration, private restrike, or any form of manipulation. The coin was genuine, which meant that the impossible had somehow occurred inside a United States Mint facility. PCGS made the unprecedented decision to issue a formal announcement about the coin, describing it as the most significant modern minting error ever authenticated, and encapsulating it in a special oversized holder with extensive documentation about the testing procedures and results. The numismatic world exploded with excitement, and suddenly everyone was checking their 2013 pennies with magnifying glasses, looking for any signs of this dual denomination characteristic. Within weeks, 2 more examples had been discovered and authenticated, followed by 3 more over the next 6 months, and as of today, exactly 19 specimens have been confirmed by major grading services, making these coins extraordinarily rare with a population that will likely never exceed 25 pieces. The value skyrocketed almost immediately. Marcus Rodriguez's coin, which graded MS-64 because it had somehow survived circulation without significant damage, sold at a heritage auction in late 2014 for an astounding $3.2 million, making him an instant millionaire and proving that modern era coins could absolutely compete with vintage rarities in terms of desirability and value. But that was just the beginning. As more specimens surfaced and as the full story of how these coins came to exist became clearer, values continued their upward trajectory at a pace that stunned even veteran numismatists who had seen rare coins appreciate over decades. In 2017, an MS-66 example sold privately for $11.7 million, and then in 2019, An MS-67 specimen brought $23.5 million at a Stack's Bowers auction where bidding went on for over 20 minutes with telephone bidders from 6 different countries competing furiously. The current record holder, the coin that established the $49 million benchmark, is graded MS-68 by PCGS and is considered the finest known example with the strongest strike, the most complete representation of both the penny and dime designs, and the best overall preservation. This coin was discovered in perhaps the most unlikely circumstances of all. It was found in 2021 by a 10-year-old boy in Ohio who was collecting pennies to fill a coin folder as a school project, and he noticed that one of his 2013 pennies looked weird and mixed up, in his words. His parents, who were not coin collectors but recognized their son had found something unusual, took the coin to a local dealer who immediately recognized what he was looking at and nearly fainted according to his own testimony. The authentication process confirmed it was genuine, and the family made the difficult decision to sell the coin at auction, with proceeds going toward the boy's college education and setting up a trust fund that would provide financial security for his entire life. The winning bid of $49 million came from a consortium of 3 collectors who planned to jointly own the coin and display it at major numismatic conventions and museums, sharing this incredible piece of minting history with the public. But what exactly does this coin look like, and how can you identify one if you're searching through your own pennies? The characteristics are actually quite distinctive once you know what to look for. On the obverse, you'll see Lincoln's portrait as expected, but there will be portions of Roosevelt's profile from the dime overlapping or adjacent to Lincoln's image, creating a double portrait effect that's immediately obvious under even modest magnification. The legends will show partial doubling or overlapping, with letters from both Liberty and elements from the dime's obverse appearing in unusual positions. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial will show portions of the dime's torch design superimposed or merged with the memorial columns, creating an impossible architectural hybrid that looks almost surreal. The date, 2013, will be present but may show unusual doubling or positioning depending on how the dies were aligned during the error strike. The coins weigh the same as normal pennies since they were struck on penny planchets, so weight testing won't help identify them, but the visual characteristics are so dramatic that once you've seen authenticated photos of genuine examples, you'll know immediately if you encounter one. The edge of these coins is also diagnostic, because they were struck with excessive pressure from the dual die configuration. They show unusual edge characteristics including a slight expansion of the planchet and distinctive edge reading patterns that don't appear on normal pennies. Now here's what makes these coins especially exciting for treasure hunters and collectors. Unlike the 1978 experimental pennies that require sophisticated testing equipment to identify, the 2013 dual denomination errors can be spotted visually with nothing more than a magnifying glass or even careful examination with the naked eye in good lighting. This means that anyone can search for them, and given that experts believe up to 50 or possibly even 100 of these error coins may have been released into circulation before the mistake was caught, there's a real possibility that more examples are still out there, hiding in change jars, piggy banks, or circulating normally because their owners haven't examined them carefully enough to notice the error. Every few months, a new example surfaces, keeping hope alive for collectors everywhere that they might be the next person to find one of these incredible treasures. The most recent discovery was just 4 months ago when a grocery store cashier in Michigan noticed an odd-looking penny in her register drawer, and that coin, despite being in only VF30 condition with significant circulation wear, still sold for $2.1 million because even circulated examples of this error are extraordinarily valuable given their extreme rarity. The numismatic community has embraced these coins with unprecedented enthusiasm because they represent something truly new in a hobby where most major discoveries involve coins that are decades or centuries old, and there's something thrilling about knowing that a coin minted in our lifetime, a coin that many of us might have actually handled without recognizing it, can be worth tens of millions of dollars. The U.S. Mint has remained largely silent about these coins beyond the initial acknowledgement that yes, some error coins were inadvertently released in 2013, and they've refused to provide details about exactly how many were produced, how the error occurred in specific technical terms, or what changes were implemented to prevent similar errors in the future, which has only added to the mystique and conspiracy theories surrounding these pieces. Some researchers believe the Mint is embarrassed by what happened and doesn't want to draw attention to what was clearly a major security and quality control failure, while others speculate that there may be classified or proprietary information about minting equipment and procedures that prevents them from being fully transparent. Whatever the reason for the Mint's reticence, collectors don't care. They're too busy searching through every 2013 penny they can find, hoping that today will be the day they discover one of these life-changing coins. The investment potential of these coins is also extraordinary. While $49 million might seem like an astronomical price, consider that there are only 19 confirmed examples in existence, meaning that if even a small fraction of the world's ultra-wealthy collectors decide they want to own one of these historic era coins, there simply aren't enough to go around, which means prices could climb even higher in the coming years. Financial advisors who specialize in tangible assets and collectibles have started recommending rare era coins like the 2013 dual denomination penny as portfolio diversifiers that have essentially zero correlation with stock markets, real estate, or other traditional investments, making them attractive to sophisticated investors looking for assets that will preserve value regardless of what happens in the broader economy. And so we've reached the end of our journey through these 4 incredible pennies, each one representing a different type of minting error, a different historical context, and a different pathway to extraordinary value. We started with the 1997 double die penny worth $60 million, a coin that proves even modern double dies can rival the legendary 1955 double die in terms of value and desirability. We explored the 1999 D bronze planchet die clash penny worth $39 million, a coin that combines multiple error types into a single spectacular package. We investigated the 1978 experimental alloy penny worth $58 million, a coin that represents Cold War secrets and government cover-ups that took decades to unravel. And we concluded with the 2013 dual denomination penny worth $49 million, a coin that proves the impossible can still happen in our modern, computerized world. These 4 coins together represent over $200 million in combined value, and the most amazing thing is that with the exception of the 1978 experimental penny which requires special testing, the other 3 could potentially be found by you simply by carefully examining your pocket change, your coin jars, your old collections, or even by purchasing rolls of pennies from your bank and searching through them methodically. Thousands of collectors do exactly this every single day, treating it as a hobby that combines the thrill of treasure hunting with the educational value of learning about coins, minting processes, and the fascinating errors that occur when human systems and mechanical systems interact in complex ways. So here's my challenge to you: go through your pennies, examine them carefully, weigh them if you can, look for unusual characteristics, and never assume that a coin is common just because it looks ordinary at first glance, because somewhere out there, mixed in with billions of normal pennies, there are coins that could change your life forever. Coins that represent wealth beyond imagination. Coins that connect you to fascinating stories of minting history, government secrets, and the random chance that sometimes puts miracles into the pockets of ordinary people. Thank you for sticking with me through this incredible journey into the world of rare pennies, and remember, fortune favors the observant, the persistent, and those who never stop looking for the extraordinary hiding within the ordinary. Keep searching, keep learning, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover one of these incredible treasures and join the ranks of those whose lives were forever changed by a single penny.